offer. Big, beautiful, flown by only those with the right stuff. For those who dream, a real promise that man will continue to explore the final frontier. America's space shuttles. All of that makes what we have to report tonight all the more difficult. Just 1 minute and 12 seconds after the takeoff of the Shuttle Challenger, it simply blew up without warning. All 7 astronauts on board, including the first teacher in space, Krista McAuliffe, died. The tragedy, which occurred about 6 hours ago, still hard to comprehend. First tonight, a look at what went wrong.
They had gone through the area of greatest atmospheric pressure and were given the clearance to throttle up again by mission control. Then tragedy struck. Something exploded. Flames developed at the base of the main fuel tank near the 3 main engines. That main fuel tank contains 500,000 gallons of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Super high energy fuel and highly explosive. It's almost as if a ring of fire spreads around the base of the fuel tank. Cause unknown at this point. But it could be a turbopump, a defective valve, or the thin metal plate that separates the liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen in the fuel tank. And once liquid hydrogen goes, it's deadly and unstoppable. It all happened almost 5 miles high and 9 miles downrange. The orbiter never had a chance falling from that altitude. So all flights have been suspended while a formal board of investigation is set up. That could take months. NASA Associate Administrator Jesse Moore.
It's going to be a function of what the board finds were the difficulties today and what corrective actions have to be taken before we feel confident and feel safe to fly again.
NASA had ambitiously scheduled 15 flights for 1986. And the next flight, which had been scheduled for March 6th to photograph Halley's Comet, has already been canceled. And unless it turns out to be something ludicrously simple and quickly fixable, the shuttle program may well lose 6 to 9 months. Jules Bergman, ABC News.
Nobody was more shocked and horrified than the students and colleagues of school teacher Krista McAuliffe. They were watching with pride as the shuttle took off, then silent disbelief as the tragedy unfolded. Most schools in West Michigan were keeping a close eye on this shuttle mission since it was to feature the first teacher in space. A candidate for that position was a teacher at the Fremont Junior High School, and Terry Thill was allowed in the classroom this afternoon as he talked about the disaster.
For a while. So it was flying upside down. The explosion occurred.
Fremont science teacher Mike Slootmaker tries to explain the tragedy to his students. It's not easy for him because it could have been his shuttle ride. Out of 11,000 teachers nationwide who applied to be the first into space, Mike made the top 180 being considered. He even had the same pre-flight physical Krista McAuliffe did.
When I was in the Johnson Space Center in Houston, we got to talk with some people who were involved in the shuttle program, and the pre-flight checks that they have to go through there are just mind-boggling.
For the students of Mike Slootmaker, who've been kept very, very much aware of the manned space program, the reality of the tragic situation was sinking in.
If the shuttle had blown up next to a satellite, what would have happened? I mean, would the satellite blow up too?
Probably. Randy?
This is such a big explosion. Wouldn't it just disintegrate?
Well, that's about what it did.
You mean they didn't have any notion or anything that something was wrong? It just went up and it blew?
Yeah, right. They would not have sent them up had they had anything wrong. When the people are...
Finally, the inevitable question. Does Mike still want to ride into space aboard a shuttle?
What are we going to get when we go out into space? Is it worth going out there, taking some risks in order to gain some new knowledge? And I think it is. So would I go? Probably I would.
Space will continue to be a major topic for this science class, but the history of it will never be the same. In Fremont, Terry Thill, TV13 Eyewitness News.
I'm Ken Colby. It has been 19 years and 1 day since the last tragedy involving America's space program. At 6:31 p.m. on January 27, 1967, Apollo 1 astronauts Virgil Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee were killed when fire raged through their sealed space capsule during a training exercise. Chaffee was a Grand Rapids native and a 1953 graduate of Grand Rapids Central High School. Our Cynthia Kay contacted Chaffee's parents at their winter home near Tampa, Florida. Don and Blanche Chaffee share a special empathy with the family and friends of those aboard today's Challenger flight.
My heart goes out to them. I feel very sad, and they're going to have a heavy weight in their chest and their hearts.
It's going to hurt, really hurt, like your heart is breaking. One thing, if they can talk about it, as in any case of death, if you can talk about it, the load is easier.
The Chaffees say that Roger knew the risk of being an astronaut and readily accepted it. In spite of their personal tragedy, the Chaffees remain staunch supporters of the space program.
Sometimes the price of progress, you know, comes pretty high, but it is paid by a certain few people and pioneers, and they have to be remembered and revered.
Ken Colby, TV 13, Eyewitness News.
Well, ABC News, of course, will have more on this tragedy on World News Tonight following Eyewitness News.